Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith and I'm your host. Keeper of the Greens has come back. We are venturing over to South Australia. Got a ripper of a conversation coming for you on this one. This is episode number 75. Ladies and gentlemen, Nadim's Nuggets is back. We are in the midst of getting ready for summer. It's disease pressure time. We're going to talk about a fungicide. It's ProPlant. Nadim, can you tell us what's going on with ProPlant?
Yeah, sure. Well, this is the perfect time to start really looking at your Pythium program if you haven't started already. Temperatures are rising. There's been high humidity pretty much everywhere and a lot of rainfall, as we all know.
Yes.
ProPlant is one we've had in our arsenal now for 21 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is so, and it's been one of our best products that we sell in the turf industry, and it was a game changer when it first came out. It's got propamacarb as the active ingredient. We were the first company to bring propamacarb into the Australian turf market.
Wow.
Under the name of ProPlant, and it gave curative as well as preventative properties for Pythium control.
So it's a great all-round fungicide for Pythium control.
Yeah, definitely. So if you want to prevent Pythium, it'll do it. If you've got Pythium there, it'll get rid of it. If you want to tank mix it with some other broad-spectrum fungicides, you can do that as well. And we had a lot of times during the trials, we never saw Pythium by itself. There was always Pythium and other diseases. So we do recommend tank mixing ProPlant with a number of broad-spectrum fungicides to get the best control.
Ripper, mate. Thanks, Nadim, for Nadim's Nuggets.
No, Steve, you're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going into the driest state in Australia. We're going to South Australia. We go into a beautiful capital city that is Adelaide, and I have on the line a fantastic person. I've been waiting so long to get him on this podcast. I have Superintendent of Glenelg Golf Club, Tim Warren. G'day, Tim. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Steve. And thanks for the invite. I hope your hype is going to be worth it.
Mate, I'm sure it will. Look, I've been wanting to do this, and there's a lot of people know that I've been talking to. We had Monina Gilbey, who's the biodiversity manager there with you at Glenelg, and we'll get into all this. But since she was on, part of, and you and I have spoken in the past, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to make this happen. So part of it is getting to the point to have you here, so we can really open up a lot more of Glenelg on top of what Monina's done from her angles and things as well, mate. So, look, as far as hype goes or any of that, look, it's my own hype within my own head, I suppose. I don't know.
No, that's no worries. No worries at all, mate. No worries. No, pleasure to be on. And I think what you're doing with this podcast, I mean, I'm an avid podcast listener. If I get spare time, and I think what you're doing in getting people's stories out there. I think there's a lot of stories within this industry that need to get out there, and I think what you're doing is fantastic.
Well, thank you, mate. It's look, it is a bit of I enjoy talking to people about their stories because I think everyone has a story, and I felt like I had mine, and it's good to discover the people within the industry and the people for the back end of it. For me, it's about the people that deliver the golf courses that we all love to go and enjoy. And it can be someone who plays once a year in a corporate day. It can be someone who plays 5 times a week and they're retired and they just love the game. It doesn't matter, and I think it's good to know who's behind, because greenkeepers, superintendents and the like, I find are the people you don't see. You're out there early in the morning,
That's
you're
right.
gone.
That's right. That's it.
If you're in the way of golfers, there's a problem. So we try to steer clear as much as possible. But, mate, welcome. Thank you for being part of it. And I'm going to start off, as I always do, with Steve's Super 7 questions. A quick bit of fun. Are you ready to go?
Yes.
All right.
Ready to go.
Let's see. Now, number 1, sunrise or sunset?
I'd have to go out on a limb on this one. I don't mind a good sunset.
Nice.
Especially like if it's you mentioned in your intro about us being the drier state and whatnot. There's many times late on a Saturday evening and a 40-degree day sort of thing that I'm out there, or the staff's out there doing some hand watering or some checks and whatnot. And there's something about the evening light going through there. We've got some big pine trees, big radiators and panasters and whatnot, and just the shadows at night. I think there's something special about that. So Yeah, out on a limb.
Fantastic.
But that's sunset, I reckon.
Fantastic. Mate, I love, what an explanation. That's brilliant. And you know what? I'll add to that because I have been to Adelaide a few times and I do love it. And the stillness, I'm going to go with the stillness of the water and the flatness of the beach at Glenelg itself and along the water's edge. It's really, if you're from the East Coast and you don't get to go to Perth and you can go to Adelaide, that's just a really unique thing to see for the first time. It's like seeing the sun sizzle down behind the flat stillness of the water. It's quite unusual. It's memorable. So, mate, I'll add to it.
You know, it is. It's like when you get those hot days and it's just still and there's no wind or whatnot. It's just like glass out there and whatnot. It's fantastic. So
very unique.
Yeah, it sort of backs up what I feel with the sunsets.
Awesome, mate. That's only number one. Okay, all right, let's go. Number two: dogs or no dogs allowed on a golf course. And I want your own personal view on this. So remove yourself a bit if you can from Glenelg itself. What are your personal preferences?
Oh, look, and the kids are always on to me about getting a dog, and I think a few of our staff members would love to see get a course dog, just to scare a few ducks off and that sort of thing, and rival our course cat that we have. Give Gomez a run for her money, but look, I say I'm a fan of dogs.
Okay.
Apart from Glenelg, I suppose the policy at Glenelg, I don't know whether they're too keen on dogs running around the golf course, even though we have got a neighbour that lives on the 17th hole, and she quite often is out there walking a dog late in the evening. But we won't go there.
But we won't. We'll steer clear of that one.
Steer clear of that one.
All right, so dogs are for you. You're inclined with dogs.
Yeah, I'm inclined for the dogs. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, now course presentation, and this one I'm intrigued because I haven't had the luxury of seeing Glenelg yet, and I say yet because I am keen. But number 3 is course presentation, stripes or no stripes on fairways. Mate, what are you thinking there? What's your feel?
No stripes.
No stripes?
No stripes. I'm not a big fan of the stripes.
Okay.
I just like to see the turf do the talking.
Yep.
To coin a phrase, I suppose, it's you want to highlight how the presentation of your turf, and stripes, it gets a little bit busy, I think, and especially with us, with the contrast of our native areas and whatnot. You don't want to sort of detract from that.
Yep. No, fair enough, mate. Sounds good. Number 4, after a golf shot, do you prefer people to replace their divot or put sand down?
Sand down.
Yep.
Sand down. No replacing divot. Sand down, and it's got to be in traditional green sand, coloured green sand.
Nice.
That's a thing that we do at Glenelg, and a lot of clubs now, I think, following our trend. But we colour our divot sand green.
It makes a bit of a difference, doesn't it? Just from a distance, when you look out across, ball collection areas of fairways where there's lots of shots being taken from and bits and pieces like that, doesn't it?
Definitely. I mean, one of my first things when I started at Glenelg, I thought, here I am, I'm going to make an impression and save a bit of money. And they'd been doing the green sand for a while. Oh, well, what's really the point of this green sand sort of stuff? So I got rid of it. I only found out last year there was an ex-captain that just come up to me after about 2 or 3 bottles of wine and said he was going to sack me because of that. I think it might have been his baby.
One fell swoop, you've gone and undone it.
Yeah, that's right. We went through a winter without the green sand, and you're right. We've got an elevated first fairway with a collection point, and you can see it quite vividly from the clubhouse. This all the divots, especially by the end of winter. And I get what he's going on about now. I don't know whether I deserve getting the sack, but I
think it's probably a little bit harsh, or a lot.
Yeah, a lot harsh. Yeah.
All right, so that's an interesting one. Well, there's always interesting. So you talk to superintendents about weird decisions and things that people's reaction to certain decisions made, and it's. Every now and then, someone has a story, a super or a greenkeeper has a story of this wild moment, this ridiculous reaction from somebody somewhere, and it's from an innocuous choice or something being done. Anyway, it's sidetracked. So, okay. Yeah. So, sand, and you've got green sand. It's good to hear we've got green sand. All right.
Green sand.
Now, number 5, and I'm going to ask you this one. I'm curious, is your favourite grass variety? What is your favourite grass variety, mate?
Oh, definitely on fairways, it'd have to be Santa Ana. Nothing. I don't think there's nothing in comparison to it really.
Yep.
In terms of its management and whatnot. And then on cool seasons, nothing beats a pure bent grass green. So
Cool.
Either or. I've given you two there.
And you've covered both sides, hot and cold. So that's very good, mate. Very good. Now this one. Now I'm getting all excited. It's only number 6. This one is, I do apologise because I don't have Glenelg as part of this. It is a neighbouring golf course, but I'm going to ask just the same. So your favourite bunker style, and it's multiple choice. Is it Kingston Heath in Melbourne? Is it Royal Adelaide, which is a neighbour of yours? Or is it the Australian Golf Club in Sydney? What's your favourite bunker style?
I can't say North Royal Adelaide. I can't give them any credence. No, look, can I say a cross between Kingston Heath and St Andrews revetted bunker?
Oh, okay.
Because that's where we're at Glenelg.
I was going to say, I think we're alluding to something there.
Yeah, we are. No, look, if you're sticking to the
stick to the three.
The criteria, you'd have to say Kingston Heath.
Okay, very good choice. Very popular choice, very good choice. And one final one, mate, number 7. If you could visit one golf course anywhere in the world tomorrow, for you, Tim, which one would it be?
Well, that's a tough one.
Big question, I know.
It is a one because I'm on bucket list. I'd love to go to Ireland.
Okay.
I'd love to spend a month in Ireland just playing golf and visiting in as many hotels as I can. I'd love to go down the west coast of Ireland and play some of the more obscure sort of links courses in Ireland.
Okay, have you got any names? Even if it's not a one, you've got me intrigued because I don't know Ireland at all, really, apart from the British Isles.
It's more the fact that, it comes from probably speaking to my course project and construction manager, Ryan Vanderveen, who spent a lot of time in Ireland building golf courses for Greg Norman, and Lee Hinch is one there, but it's probably more of a well-known one. But I've spoken to a couple of Irish guys, and look, I can't remember the names.
Sure.
Look, it's the ones that are off the beaten track.
Yep.
They always say the ones that are off the beaten track are often the best.
The ones that the locals know.
That's right. So, and there's a lot of them. So, when I get there, I'll be able to tell you all about them.
We'll get a list mailed back.
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
Very good. Well, there's some fantastic in-depth answers, Tim. Thank you very much for doing that. It's there's going to be a good comparison with these, and I think your answers have been sensational, mate. Very insightful. So very insightful into your mind and your thoughts, mate. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate you being part of the fun side of things. And it's not taking away from the rest of the podcast because it's meant to be fun the whole way along. So, look,
that's right.
We're getting to the meaty part of the Keeper of the Greens podcast, mate, with your career and something we want to learn. We know that you're superintendent at Glenelg Golf Club now, as you have been for a number of years. But I want you to take us back to the beginning. How did a young Tim Warren get and manage or stumble your way into the career choice of greenkeeping? I want you to tell us the journey that you went on and maybe a little bit of your background, potentially where you grew up. Did that have a factor in that as well, mate? Are you an Adelaide boy?
Definitely.
No idea.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't come from a golfing background. I mean, my family went into golf and whatnot. So I suppose my turf career didn't come from there. But no, I grew up in northern Victoria.
Right.
Around a small town, Nathaya. Just west of, east of Nathaya at an even smaller town called Waiai.
Okay.
On a dairy farm there. And,
right.
We farmed, Dad farmed about 120 odd acres, milked about the same amount of cows. And that's where I grew up. And I suppose my interest sort of stemmed from my love of sport. I was right into cricket and the Aussie rules.
As a good Victorian?
Yes, as a good Victorian. I was in charge. Mum put me in charge of looking after parks and gardens around the house and whatnot. So
nice.
I really enjoyed that. So it really just started from a hobby or a job for pocket money that I was getting off Mum and Dad.
Wow.
And then we had a bit of spare ground between the way all those soldier settlement farms were set up, that you'd have your house and you have your machinery sheds behind the house and whatnot. And there was a bit of bit of vacant land between the machinery sheds and the dairy, and Dad sort of suggested that how about we get the land plane out and we level that area off, and we put a bit of a lawn in, or a little oval as we used to call it, and we built some cricket nets. We got some concrete and we concreted a cricket net.
Nice.
That sort of thing. So that's where it probably all started, from a hobby. And then I thought, I don't mind doing this. And then I started doing some work experience. So my first work experience was in year 10, and the early 90s was at the MCG. I did a week at the MCG.
Wow.
Did that. And then what did I also do? I did some work experience at Glenelg Golf Club on the river.
On the Murray, yep.
On the Murray. I did work experience there, and then at the end of year 11 I started sort of off my own bat through a mate who I played cricket with. His dad used to look after the bowling greens in at Nafar, and used to ride my bike into the bowling club and help the old boys out rolling and marking the rinks and breaking ditches and doing all that sort of thing. And sort of at the end of year 11 I sort of decided not to do year 12, did a pre-apprenticeship course in Melbourne, moved down to Melbourne as a 17-year-old, and stayed in a hostel on Sydney Road and rode my bike around to the old Parkfield TAFE down there near the Children's Hospital down there in Melbourne. And while I was there, I got an apprenticeship at a greenkeeping apprenticeship at Yarrawonga and Border Golf Club, as it was known back then. I think it's called the Club Yarrawonga Mawala or something like that now. So so I did my apprenticeship there. So that's how I got in it. So it was more or less, I suppose, my background, my family's background is farming. Working outdoors,
working on the land.
Scenery. Yeah, that's it. And also, I suppose, my love of sport. And it then I sort of started taking up golf. When I started my apprenticeship. So,
okay. Wow. Man, if I just jump in
of the game then.
There you go. And that's quite a journey from a country life into the big smoke. And I've heard that a couple of times from a couple of different people that I've interviewed, that it's this leap growing up, coming of age as a teenager, going into the big smoke for a period. I'm curious, you mentioned there that you did a week's work experience at the MCG. Now, you're an AFL fan as a kid, playing, like you said, cricket and AFL. What was that like? Do you remember? Because I remember the first time I went to a football or a cricket match, I think it was, at the SCG in Sydney. And it was just I was a spectator. It's just one of the biggest things you could do as a kid, going to see Australia play. And what was it like to actually be inside that, working in the grounds, like in essentially the Coliseum? It's the biggest stadium in this country.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, was that a pretty awe-inspiring moment as a kid?
Oh yeah, as a kid, year 10 kid, and like I said, I was a AFL or Aussie rules nut. I loved it, and that was probably why I did it. But yeah, I was just pinching myself on the Monday, and it was the middle of footy season, so there wasn't too much going on. But I remember, I was working with a guy there, and he must have thought I was nuts. I thought on the Monday we sanded and divoted the ground on the Monday, and that's all we did. And he was bitching and moaning about, oh, geez, I'm doing this job again, and here I am looking around at the stands and in awe and dropping sand in the divots and whatever. And I thought that this is pretty cool. No, it was, it was different back then. It was, I suppose, the highlight back then for me. Just getting an insight what goes on behind the scenes at preparing the stadiums and whatnot. Different down there. I remember they were responsible. MCC Trust, I think they are. They're responsible for a number of grounds in Melbourne, around the Melbourne, and I think there was I think the tennis centre has taken over now. They used to have a couple of ovals over the railway lines there.
Right.
I remember wheeling with another work experience kid. We wheeling a push mower over the footbridge over to the over to these other grounds with a whippersnipper on our shoulders, and we said, the supervisor, there's a couple of ovals over the bridge there. You take these push mowers and these whippersnippers and just mow around underneath the fence and whippersnipper around the fence. When you finish, come back and find someone, we'll find another job. It's all pretty casual back then. But and I remember another job we had to go. It was just before they were resurfacing the ground before the World Cup final, the Cricket World Cup final. And this is years ago. I think it was Pakistan versus that year, Pakistan versus England in the World Cup final. But they were rebuilding the oval, and we had to go up to the turf farm, Strathair Turf Farm at Tallarook. Two work experienced kids, myself and another one, with the supervisor in the ute, and we drove up there, and the supervisor just sat in the ute, and he said, in that shearing shed there, that old shearing shed there, there's heaps of bundles of this, I suppose, the stabilising material they're going to be using for inside the profile. Can you go in and count how many bales are? Come out of the shed when you're finished. So me and this young kid, we went in there, there's possum shit everywhere, there's bird shit, and we're in there counting. We come out and said, "Oh yeah, there's 150 of these bales." Good, okay, and we jumped in the ute and turned around back down to Melbourne, sort of thing. So it was a bit. I walked around. Righto, we might do some work experience at a golf club. I think I might give that a go. I don't fancy sort of doing this, but yeah, as an experience. So the highlight, I suppose, too, was getting into 2 free games of football too. So
wow, yeah. Awesome, unreal. Well, there you go. I wanted to pick your brains a little bit more detail.
You're testing my memory now. I'm 46 now, and that was back when I was year 10, so it's a fair while ago.
We might as well test your memory now, as by the time we get to the end of the conversation, it might be a little bit bleary.
Yeah, that's it,
mate. That's awesome. Very, very interesting to hear that. And like I said, when you go from country life to what was it like for your parents to see you to move out as a 17-year-old and go off to learn and go to work?
Oh, look, I think, they were really encouraging. They said, well, Dad was a bit sceptical when I said I want to be a greenkeeper because, farming's been in their family for years. And you really want to do it? But they've been really supportive the whole time when I was young and doing an apprenticeship and moving to Melbourne and that sort of thing. They were great, especially when I didn't have a car, I was bored. When I moved to Yarrawonga's a bit over an hour away from home, sort of thing, and where I was boarding, Mum and Dad would be driving, picking me up on the Friday night after work and driving back home, sort of thing, and I'd stay the weekend at home and play footy at home and that sort of thing. I was still playing footy.
Yep. And
then drive me back. So they were incredibly supportive of when I first started.
Yeah, okay. Well,
and still this day, they sit back and they're always interested in what we're up to and that sort of thing. So no, they've been great. They were great early on.
That's great to hear that support because I think, and I'm guessing I don't know what it's like coming from a farming family, but I imagine it's the lineage of the family on the farm. It's probably just assumed, and I don't know if it's expected, but is that's what's always gone on in the family? Usually, is that it's
usually the way, but there's plenty. There's a couple of blokes behind me that sort of that stepped in the role. I've got a couple of brothers that are still on the farm with my parents. So
there you go.
There's a couple that come off the bench. Anyhow.
There you go. Very good to keep the family continuing on the farm. So,
that's it.
You get up north. So you go down to Melbourne. You're up then north to Yarrawonga, where you do your time as an apprentice on the Murray. Now that Yarrawonga's got a pretty good name on the Murray from memory. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Now there's 2 courses up there up at Yarrawonga, so there's sport for choice. So at Yarrawonga. Club Yarrawonga or whatever they're called now. I'll keep calling it Yarrawonga and Border.
Yeah, Yarrawonga Mulwala. I think it is.
Yeah, I'll get told off from Virgo if I keep calling it the wrong name. But 45 holes of golf there.
Wow, right.
It was a good time to be there. We'd I don't know how long the Murray course had been open. I started in there. It would have been 94. Yeah, 1994. I started at Yarrawonga, and we just started the process of resurfacing the Murray course. It was a cool. It just blows your mind to think now, but that was all cool season grasses.
Wow.
The fairways there, and I reckon we would in summertime near on pump the Murray dry for how much water we're putting out to try and keep cool seasons ryegrass, bent, power. Fairways going. So we started, Mike Swanwick was the super at the time, and he started the process of converting those fairways to Santarana. So over the 3 years I was at 3 and a bit years I was at Yarrawonga, that was our biggest project as resurfacing those fairways. And we got them done in 3 years. And I think the whole place now is, well, I don't think I know, the whole place is now Centerana. Tees and fairways and right up to greens around. So it was probably the best thing they did.
Yeah, there you go.
Water conservation and water usage. But,
it was really good. It was really good. Big staff. We had at the time, I reckon we were up around about the 18 on staff at Yarrawonga ones there. So it was a good place to do your apprenticeship. A really good place to do. Absolutely. So you completed your time at Yarrawonga, mate, I assume, and then where did life take you beyond that? Did you stay for a period, or did you then move on to somewhere else?
Oh, look, they had a policy at the time that you'd put 2 apprentices on, and then I sort of read the tea leaves and thought, well, they might have been tossing up between myself and another guy, and I really wanted to, progress. Probably at that stage too, like the Ohio program and whatnot wasn't really well publicised, early 90s and that sort of thing, so I didn't really know about that. Moving to Melbourne, again, might have been an option sort of thing, leave there and try and get a tradesman job or something like that in Melbourne, but I was probably a bit headstrong and probably thought, I knew everything anyhow, and I really wanted to be in charge. I really wanted to have my own golf course and be a head greenkeeper, stroke superintendent and whatnot. And one of my rallies in Ballarat saw an advertisement in the local paper of a little place in South Australia, in the southeastern corner of South Australia, Penola. Were looking for a greenkeeper or a superintendent. And I applied for that job. I didn't know where Penola was.
Where is Penola?
Well, Penola's in the southeast of South Australia.
Is that near Mount Gambier somewhere?
Yeah, 50k north of Mount Gambier. It's probably more famous for being on the southern edge of the Coonawarra wine growing area. It's a famous wine growing area and whatnot. So, but I didn't, as a young fellow, I didn't know where it was or whatever. So, I remember Dad and I jumping in the car and driving the 8 hours over to Penola, and I had a job interview with a couple of the committee guys. I mean, it was basically a greenkeeper and volunteers.
Oh,
and,
okay. So that's the level of size of the golf course we're talking. Yeah,
that's
right.
The level of
was it 18 holes?
18 holes.
Okay.
And so I was interviewed by a local stock agent, a couple of farmers. We sat down. It was pretty casual over a cup of tea. Righto. Yep, we'll give this young fellow a chance, and that was my first job.
Wow, that's unreal.
So I was a 21-year-old. I'd gone from a staff of 18, and here I was, hours away from family and whatever. And at this little country golf club, we had 18 holes, as you said, little power, predominantly power greens, predominantly cool seasons, fairways with a few Kikuyu fairways, 2 diesel bores for the irrigation system, all manual, all quick coupling valves.
Wow!
And I think, righto, here we go.
Busy job.
Geez, did I learn some stuff? I soon learned, Steve, that I didn't know as much as what I thought.
I think I agree that's, and I think I've heard, anyone who's listened to the podcast, when you take that leap, that you go from being, confident, you've done your time, you're wanting that time to get the reins. This is what I call it, because that's how I felt. You're just like, you know what? This is my thing. I'm ready to go, guys. Yeah, let's just. I need to just find myself a golf course because I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm going to show this world what I can do, and and then you step foot in the door and you just go, holy shit! And all the ocean just really starts to build up around you, and you go.
The first summer, I reckon I remember distinctly the back 9 greens. I reckon I lost all those greens through disease. I reckon the only time I saw fungicide being put out at Yarrawonga, I think once. We sprayed fungicide once in the 3 years I was there. And I've gone down and I'm seeing disease and the diseases in these greens that I've never seen before. And I'm going to the textbooks and thinking, what the hell's going on here? And so I soon found out what Pythium and anthracnose was all about, and dollar spot and fusarium and everything else, because it is like the climate down there is very conducive to diseases and whatnot. It's quite moist and humid sort of in the spring and summer, and quite wet through. I think the average rainfall down in the southeast of South Australia is pushing 35 inches in the old scale. So I come from northern Victoria where it hardly ever rained to southeast of South Australia where in winter time or through from late autumn through to early spring it doesn't stop raining. And I soon learned a thing or two about managing power as a surface. Anyhow,
yeah, sure. And by the sounds of it, that I mentioned it at the very beginning that South Australia is the driest state in the country. So basically, that corner has all the rainfall of the whole state.
If you take the Adelaide Hills and the southeast of South Australia, they flog all the rain. They have all the rain, and everywhere else it doesn't rain.
It's a funny little pocket down there. Mount Gambier is quite beautiful, but it's interesting when you're driving from Adelaide down how it changes, and it's a little bit like it's a little bit like the southwest corner of WA. It just changes, and you're just like, wow, where did this come from? It's just a little oasis.
Spot on. Yeah.
So how long did you? And I've forgotten the name of the course, mate. How long were you there for?
Penola. Penola. I was there for about just under 2 years. So.
Okay.
I got my first summer out of the way after killing all the back nine drones. I got them back, and quick learner. Got them back, and I think down the road, about 50k down the road, a club called Millicent Golf Club.
I've heard of that.
Millicent is a great track, and by far, if it was an hour outside of a major metropolitan area, it'd be. I mean, at the time, it was in the top 100 golf courses in Australia.
There you go. Bloody hell.
At the time. And that is around 99, 2000.
Yep.
It was still rated 80th in Australia, Millicent.
Wow.
And anyhow,
okay.
a job come up there, and I got a friendly visit from one of the committee guys from Millicent, sort of suggested that I should put in for the job at Millicent. And on his suggestion, I did put in for the job, and surprise, surprise, I got it. So I think the guys at the committee at Penola weren't too happy. There's a strong rivalry between the two clubs.
Right, okay.
Too happy that I up and left. But, another step. I've gone from working by myself with a group of volunteers to having an apprentice. I thought I had an apprentice. And then I had another guy that was 3 days a week, a casual. 3 days a week, and I loved working there. That was probably some of the best time. It's one of the most. I mean, the word will come up in a conversation for sure, but it was probably one of the most sustainable golf courses that I've ever worked at. In terms of what was irrigated, we cut short. What we didn't irrigate, we let go because it was carved out of. We sat on 80 metres of sand, basically. It was Millicent's really? There's a bit of a range outside of Millicent and pine forests and whatnot up in the hills there.
Okay.
And then right in the middle of all these pine forests, this golf course sits in this pocket of scrub, native scrub, manna gum, stringy bark scrub with grass trees and bracken fern. And if you think similar topography to say a well-known course, say Peninsula Kingswood or something like that. I mean, that's what, and the sand is exactly the same as almost exactly the same as your Melbourne sandbelt.
Wow.
It's very, it's a white grey colour, compacts. You can get greens really firm without trying, really. I mean, it was just magnificent. And, like I said, it was rated 80 in Australia at the time. It was just one of the best golf courses I've worked at, and like I said, if it was an hour outside of a metropolitan area, I'd be still rated in the top 100 golf courses.
Fair, that's incredible. I'm going to look into that one. Thanks for the tip.
Yep.
Very good. A tip to everyone listening. Okay, so Millicent was the next step for you, and
Millicent was and look, we had a great time there, me and my apprentice and that sort of thing. And John, his nickname was One Shot Jono because he was right into his fishing and his shooting and that sort of thing. So quite often on a Friday afternoon, we'd be sitting around our little Kmart barbecues, eating venison steaks and crayfish tails, just for laughs, really. I mean, we had a great time there. And the apprentice I had, I don't think he's in the industry anymore, but he was a ripping lad, and Nathan Bell and Johnny. So really enjoyed that. But look, the next step, I suppose you're leading to that. I mean, I met my wife when I was working at Millicent. Met my wife, Kate. She's from Mount Gambier, and we started going out and that sort of thing. And while we're going out, and one thing led to the other, we got engaged and whatever. And the job come up at Mount Gambier Golf Club, and that was the big smoke of the southeast of South Australia. And I thought I'd give that a go. And I suppose. And this is probably the start of, I suppose, the downturn in golf, I think, in that area, unfortunately. I mean, in the space of 4 years, a bit over 4 years that I'd moved over from Victoria to South Australia, I mean, when I was at Penola, I mean, Mount Gambier had 900 members and had a waiting list, and they were kicking goals, and they had 5 blokes on staff, and you thought, oh, geez, that'd be a good job to get one day. I mean, that'd be the pinnacle of working down here. And by the time I got there, I think the club had done what a lot of clubs do. They'd over-capitalised on clubhouse, got themselves into debt. The council had there was another council 9-hole track they added another 9 holes to and become an 18-hole track, and a lot of members went over there, and they were really, really battling by the time I got there.
So was this, mate, the early 2000s? What are we talking? Yeah. So, and the only reason you didn't mention it, and I threw that out there, I was going to say, it's like clubs, they all wanted to build a pyramid, and that's what I call it, because they had to build this big thing. They just, and it's like they were awash with money. Like, what are we going to do? Oh, we can build a bigger clubhouse than our, competitor or someone who frequents another well-known golf course. It's our turn to build a pyramid. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, they just go, shit, we didn't know it was going to cost that much. Now what happens?
Yeah, that's right. And there was those, like I said, that outside influence there too of I forgot which council. I mean, they have 2 councils down there. They got Mount Gambier City Council and Grant District Council. I think one of the two had the council course, and they put another 18. They had a landfill site that they want to rehabilitate, so they built another 9 holes on this landfill site. And lo and behold, a city that city of 30,000 has got 2 18-hole golf clubs. So, I mean, the place wasn't big enough for
dividing everything divided by half. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. So you'd never have two thriving clubs down there, 18-hole golf clubs. They were always sort of battling away, and they're always battling against each other, sort of thing. But when I got there, I mean, like I said, they'd gone from having 5 on staff and whatnot to I had a mechanic and another guy that he basically left school when he was 15, and he'd been there for 40 years, and he was limited in what he could do and whatever. So I was running around doing a lot, and that put a lot of strain on things early on.
Sure.
But we sort of restructured things. The mechanic moved on. The other guy moved on. We put on a couple of apprentices. We got our numbers up to 4, and still battle. But me and the 3 guys that I had, the 3 young fellows I had, we were able to sort of at least present the golf course. And look, it was all manual irrigation too, and it was all bent grass power fairway. So we started the process of converting Mount Gambier over to Santa Ana, and they've had their battles with it since I've left, but I think it's been a good move for them going to the Santa Ana.
For sure.
Yeah, so we were there I was there for 3 years.
Yep.
Wife and I, we lived on course for a little while. There was a little cottage there, but it needed a lot of work. It was fairly run down, so we decided to build a home there and that sort of thing. And we thought, well, we were optimistic, young and optimistic, I suppose, thinking that Mount Gambier would be a place that we'd settle for a bit. But the club sort of wasn't going too well at that stage, so we started looking around again after 3 years.
Okay.
So it was tough. I mean, Kate had been Mount Gambier, born and bred, and that sort of thing. And
so this was a big deal.
It was a massive deal. There was a lot of let's say colourful conversations at the time about our whether we stay on or whether we go. But and I remember, and this was probably my first sort of meeting with Richard Forsyth at Royal Melbourne when he was at Metropolitan, and they were advertising for a tradesman, and I put in for that job and had an interview with Richard, and I remember him saying to me, he said, "Look, Tim, you could have the job, but I'm gonna talk you out of it." And I said, "Righto," and he said, "Mate, you're mad if you think you." And we just had my eldest daughter.
Right.
She was only probably 12 months old. And he said, "Yeah, mate, you're mad if you think you can come to Melbourne, live in Melbourne on one income on a tradesman's wage." He basically told me to stick it out, and if there was a job that had come up, put him down as a referee, and he'll back me in and put a good word in for me. And I reckon within about 6 months of that happening, a job come up at Horsham Golf Club. In the Wimmera, Western Victoria. So I put in for that job, and after I found out that I got that job, that they had rang Richard up, and Richard gave me a good word, and they gave me the job on the back of Richard's word. He'd known me for 5 seconds, but I think he saw enough in my application that he'd back us in. So that's
incredible.
After 3 years at Mount Gambier, we packed up. Tore Kate away from Mount Gambier and the family, and moved to Horsham, which was only 2 hours away here. So it was quite convenient because it was almost halfway between Kate's parents and my family as well.
And
so,
that's not a bad drive on the weekend or whatever. You can physically drive that in a reasonable, and make the visits to stay connected and not be as big a Band-Aid tear-off from the family. It just softens it. Enough.
Yeah, it does. So, that was in 05. 05, we moved to Horsham, and we found out that we were having our second child. We had Jimbo, James up there, and we moved to Horsham, and from 05 to 11, we're at Horsham.
Wow, that's a big stint. What's Horsham like?
Horsham at the time. It was a great track. Yet again, another top 100 course. It had the bit of the nickname of in Victoria as the Royal Melbourne of the bush sort of thing. It was on sand. It was a fantastic layout. It halfway between Adelaide and Melbourne, so we had a good green feed sort of trade from people moving or using it as a halfway point, stopping in Horsham overnight, playing golf, and then going on to Melbourne, whether it be going across to Melbourne for the footy or something like that, or vice versa. Look, I took over from a guy that had been there for 40-odd years and a real sport of staff that had been fairly sort of cemented there. And so it was a bit of, when we first took over, there was a bit of upheaval and that sort of thing. What's this young fella new to town sort of know, whatever. But
sure.
So not long after it started, we sort of, you'll go through those staff and whatever, and we had end up having a guy who was a foreman when I was an apprentice over at Yarrawonga.
Okay.
And then he ended up being my best man at my wedding.
Wow.
And Dave Gove come down he moved across from Yarrawonga, and said because he formerly he grew up in the Wimmera and that, so him and his wife, so they moved back, and he became a 2IC, and then Nathan Turner, who's now the super at Latrobe Golf Club in Melbourne, he come on as an apprentice, and I had my brother on as an apprentice as well. He wanted an apprenticeship.
Wow.
I gave him an apprentice, so it was all in the family sort of things. But over that time was great. I mean, you got a good staff when you just know people turn up to work and they just click and they take the piss out of each other, and they
you just have fun.
Lunchroom and that thing, and just things happen. You don't have to tell people off or anything like that, or discipline people or remind people of standards or whatever. They just did it, and they looked after each other, and it was a great time, and we're really kicking some goals then. It was.
I think when you can just have fun at work, and like you said, it just clicks. Everyone's enjoying time, enjoying company. You all get together in the morning when everyone turns. That's what I found when we had a good group. It's easy. And it's enjoyable, and it's not a chore. You're not sitting there at home just going, "Geez, I got to go to work. Geez, tomorrow, what's it going to be? I don't even know."
Yeah, that's right.
And you just it's work. We just go to work, and everyone has a good time.
Well, it's some of the. I mean, later on in your career, you learn these things when you do management courses and that sort of thing. But it's when people know the standards and they can just I suppose, regulate the standards within the group, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have to do a friendly reminder every now and then, but it's as long as they know what's going on. I mean, and that's the thing. It was great sort of banter in the lunchroom and that sort of thing when. Oh, who's leaving the bananas on the fairways today, or this, that, and the other. I mean, it was just good, friendly banter and that sort of thing, and it just made people, oh, geez, I better not stuff up because mate, when I get into the lunchroom, they're going to have a crack at me and that sort of thing. So
and you're all helping each other as well. You're riding each other in a sense and trying to build the team up, and everyone's lifting. You know, there's no anchor. Everyone's lifting.
Yep, everyone's just getting in and doing it, and so getting in and working for each other. That's the thing.
That's it. Yep, it's a good team.
We kicked some goals there. We were getting they were doing those community water grants. We're in a fairly safe sort of national seat, so we were quite successful in getting and John Howe was still in power and that sort of thing. So we're quite successful in getting grants. So we'd spent close to over 300,000 on irrigation improvements and that sort of thing. So really the place was going places. And we're in the process around that, I reckon it was around the 08, it would have been 07, 08. We're in the process of interviewing architects and putting together a master plan.
Okay.
And then in 09, things probably really flipped around for me in terms of Horsham was one of the first on Black Saturday, we were the course was totally raised by the fires.
Wow!
So that was really a turning point for all of us on staff, the club, families. So we just gone from ticking along really nicely. Club was going okay to. In that one sort of afternoon, the whole place being flipped on its head.
And having the guts ripped out of the whole region, I imagine.
Oh, yeah, it was. I mean, we were fortunate around Horsham. I don't think we lost any life. There was a lot of property damage. The city itself was really lucky in terms of the fact that the wind change come at the time that it almost did a semicircle around the city. If the wind change come early, it probably would have gone through a portion of the city, and that would have been catastrophic. But that's sort of one of those sort of moments in your career that's sort of imprinted or branded into your mind, sort of thing. You can't forget the day where you were, what was happening.
Yep.
I mean, I think we nudged. I remember the day we was nudging 50 degrees.
Wow.
Temperature-wise, the wind, it was like just holding a hairdryer in your face. And I remember going out there early Saturday morning and turning some pumps off from the treatment works because I knew with the north wind we'd get a lot of crap coming in, pumped into a lot of blow-off grass and whatever coming into the pumping well and that sort of thing. So I had the kids and that sort of thing. Kate was working at the golf club at the time behind the bar as a casual and she was a pretty scary moment, but it was, it really flipped my career on its head, really, because I'd gone from just, I shouldn't say just being a country golf club course superintendent, but all of a sudden now I was having to sit on committees. We're talking about a group litigation against Power Corp.
Yeah, right.
Because the fire started from a power line.
From the power lines, yep.
Yeah, power line blew off into a paddock of stubble, and then it just took off.
That was it.
So in that, I was sort of processing grant applications to try and get some funding to revegetate the golf course, because basically we had 7 weeks where the course was shut, and for us to get back and get trading, so we had 90% of the vegetation had to be cleared. So
wow,
we had contractors come in with these massive mulching, like a 30-ton excavator with just a big grinding.
Big tub grinder on the back.
Tub grinder and just tub grind. Tub ground. Probably, I don't know what off the top of my head. you're probably looking at about 20 to 25 hectares, maybe 30 hectares of
Holy
vegetation.
Shit.
Yeah, so it was unreal time. But to the credit of the guys, again, we were operating. I mean, we had one shed that survived the fire. We had to bulldoze the other shed. All our mowing equipment was gone. So insurance, well, it was a good lesson. I mean, the club was grossly underinsured. So we had to rely on funding and whatever to get machinery and that sort of thing. And then we're operating out of shipping containers, converted shipping containers as our lunchroom and shedding and that sort of thing. But
wow,
I mean, the guys did a great job. And we got the course back in 7 weeks, and but again, like we discussed with, I suppose, Mount Gambier, the club run by volunteers, well-meaning volunteers, but look, you could see where they were heading, and they weren't heading down a path that was sustainable for us. I mean, I think they ended up building. I left Horsham, and they ended up building a $6 million clubhouse that a rival any clubhouse in Melbourne. And
Pyramid.
It's Pyramid, Taj Mahal, whatever you want to call it. And then the golf course suffer, I reckon now. Now I think they're only running with 2 greenkeepers and volunteers and whatnot. It's pretty disappointing. But I could see the writing on the wall. And so around 2011, we left Horsham and we moved to Adelaide. And for the first sort of course back in Adelaide was Adelaide Shores. So that was in 2011. Adelaide Shores, as it was known back now, I think it's known West Beach Parks,
right,
just near the airport. Probably the busiest public access golf course in South Australia. State government owned, and so talk about a sort of a turnaround. I mean, I've gone from turnaround. I mean, it was an eye opener, but
sure.
But it was
wow.
It was a good experience. I mean, it was a good experience, and it exposed me a whole another level of bureaucracy working for a state government.
For sure. So big learning curve, lots to take in over a period of time. And like you said, that was well articulated, mate. And no doubt. Was the move a sad one, it sounds like?
Yes, it was. Really enjoyed. I mean, I'm a country boy at heart, and that sort of thing. The same with Kate and the kids, and that sort of thing. We really enjoyed Horsham. We really enjoyed the fact that we're close to family and that sort of thing. But again, we had to make some hard decisions. We just bought a house with my parents and whatever, and come to an arrangement, nice house. We were planning on sticking out, and we were sort of, again, probably too optimistic, thinking that, the fire may present some opportunities if we do it well, but you could see that, not too long after that, they weren't going to do it well.
It wasn't going to go that way. Yep.
No, it wasn't going to go that way. So again, some difficult conversations and that sort of thing, and we decided that we'd up and move to Adelaide.
And move to Adelaide, and I would normally say that's a move to another big smoke, but I without being rude to Adelaide is a giant country town. I love Adelaide. It's fantastic to go to. I love the layout. I love the sport. I love its location. It's just a giant Bathurst is how I see Adelaide.
Oh, yeah, it's
fantastic.
It's 20 minutes to anywhere.
It's so good.
20 minutes anywhere.
I really do love it.
You live down in Glenelg, you're 20 minutes to the McLaren Vale, or you're 20 minutes up into the Adelaide Hills. You're an hour to the Barossa. I mean, what more could you want?
There's a lot of good things.
It's a lot of good things. So Adelaide Shores or West Beach Parks as it is now. I was there for 3 years.
Okay.
I had one of your previous guests as a 2IC for a while, young Patrick.
Yes.
I don't think he listened to anything that I tried to teach him. But
well, he's out in the desert now.
Yeah, that's right, and that's where it belongs.
Kalgoorlie.
That's where it belongs. He keeps ringing me up, Steve, and he just rings me up to see how my day's going. get disappointed when my day's going better than his. So
well, he is in a desert. There's
that's right.
Kalgoorlie's an interesting part of the world, but that's but there you go.
It's an interesting part of the world, and Pat's an interesting cat that probably belongs out there too.
I hope he's gonna. I'm going to send him a link.
Let's send him the link, please.
I'll send him the link as a former guest. He can get the.
No, in all seriousness,
very good.
It was a really, really, really good 2IC, and yeah. So obviously, I left after 3 years, and look, I got out of Adelaide Shores what I could get out of Adelaide Shores. I got some extra training that I never would have received if I stayed at Horsham. I'd done a management diploma and frontline management, and got all the tickets and everything else that I wouldn't have the opportunity and training and experience working within in departments and working through bureaucracies and that sort of thing. But I soon learned that there's probably a use-by date for that. I found anyhow that I just couldn't do that. I'd be out, it'd be a 40-degree day, and I'd be out ham watering greens and whatnot, and I'd be getting phone calls from an irate HR manager saying, "Where are you? Meant to be at a safety meeting." I said, "Well, I'd much rather be out trying to keep the greens alive than actually talking about a house cleaner over in the caravan park that's tripped over and is trying to bleed us for as much money as she can." I mean, that's not my go. So so I butted heads a little bit with bureaucracy there. So 3 years there, and then an opportunity come up, and this was a gamble. And we went down to down on the Fleurieu Peninsula. We went down to Lynx Lady Bay.
Oh, wow! Okay.
So Lynx Lady Bay. It's a Graham Grant.
Yes.
Predominantly Graham Grant. Jack Newton, John Spencer design course.
Yep.
Probably predominantly Graham would have done the construction with Ronnie Nias there, who's a renowned shaper that does a lot of work in Melbourne around Metro and that sort of thing. And absolutely brilliant golf course, brilliant layout, and it had just been purchased by a Chinese consortium, and they'd spent a bit of money, and I had chats with them, and everything was so they were really keen to put some money into the golf course and that sort of thing. I don't think they realise how much money that it takes to actually manage a golf course.
What it takes,
and get it to a level where they wanted. But they gave me sort of a free rein within limits because they had some events that they'd secured in terms of they'd had their South Australian Mid-Amateur for a bit.
Okay.
They'd secured the Australian Boys Championships, Junior Championships, the State Championships. So we had some good golfers there. Ryan Ruffles was playing in it and that sort of thing.
Yeah, right.
So there's some good junior golfers playing it. And then we had earmarked the Australian Mid-Amateur Championship. So they wanted me to sort of bring it up for that. We did that. It was a battle. It was a real battle there. Wind. When they built it, they probably didn't invest. Well, it was done on a shoestring budget with irrigation and whatnot. But in terms of a golf course, it was magnificent.
Yeah, right.
But I suppose that I was there for 3 years. We loved living down there on the coast. Loved the country, the lifestyle there, and that's something, a real holiday town in summer. It was brilliant, and living down there on the Fleurieu Peninsula. And the Fleurieu is just probably one of the best kept secrets in South Australia, I think. It's just magnificent down there. And so we're there for 3 years, but things got a bit sus when when the owners stopped paying me super, and then I was getting phone calls from suppliers saying, "Oh, hang on, we haven't been paid, but getting paid here. What's going on?" And "Oh, hang on, here we go."
Yep.
And so, and at the time, there's a bit of movement in Adelaide, back in Adelaide.
Okay.
Stephen Newell had left Kionga and gone over to Victoria Golf Club, and that created a bit of movement, and ambitiously threw my hat into the ring for the Kiwi job. Missed out. Got some good feedback from my application from those guys. Richard James ended up getting that job at Kiwi and left from the Grange. Left the Grange.
Right.
Put in for the job at the Grange and got an interview and that, and from all reports performed pretty well, but was headed by beaten for that job by Rowan Damon who's there now, but got some really good feedback. And not long after Rowan started, he contacted me and said, "I'll be interested in coming on as my senior assistant." And I said, "Yeah." After a bit of a conversation with Kate, I said, "Yeah, no, I'll give that a go." So so November 2017, ended up taking on the role as a senior assistant at Grange under Rowie there.
Wow. Okay. Big golf course, 2 golf courses, big club.
Yeah, and it was, and look, it's probably the almost what I say. Like you talk to people in career development. That it was probably that little sideways step that I needed to take.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like you look from the outer into these tier 1 clubs, and you think, well, what's the difference and whatever from. I mean, if you told me that 20 years ago that from starting at Penola by myself with some volunteers, and here I am now working at a Group 1 club and whatnot, I would have told you're mad. But it's a completely different ball game. We in the country, you sit back and go, "Oh, how easy would that be? Looking after a big club like that, you've got all this staff and all these resources." No, it's just different. That's the thing. There's more pressure. There's more expectation, and there's more going on.
Sure.
And that's the thing I found, and even just being at Grange, there's just more going on, and it's what I needed. So I was there for 6 months, and the Glenelg job come up, and I put my hat in the ring for that, and lucky enough, after a fairly extensive sort of interviewing process and whatnot, was successful at getting the job at Glenelg.
Wow. And then that's where we are today at Glenelg. So
yes.
when did you get that job? When did you start at Glenelg?
Look, it would have been May 2018.
2018.
Yep.
So
a bit over 4 years now, yeah.
Wowee. What a journey, mate. That's an awesome insight into, and I appreciate you opening up about all that, and there's a lot of personal stuff in there, so mate, thank you for doing that for everyone listening as well, and that's quite a journey, and that's sometimes what even that step into Grange, where it's not always the what seems like the logical next step. It's sometimes a step sideways to then jump that into the next ladder step. It just means that you can understand a little bit more detail and how those things function. Like you said, there's more going on.
Yeah, definitely.
And to be able to do that along the path. But I love the fact that you've come from country courses, you've experienced the one-man shows with volunteers and going all the way now to being at Glenelg. So, mate, quite an incredible path of greenkeeping, and a lot of experience had along the way, like you've detailed there quite well. So, mate, there's a lot in your back catalogue of experience, and that brings us.
Yeah, probably rabbit it on too much. But,
well, no. Look, it's important, I think, to see that, because you are doing a great deal of things at Glenelg, and this is what I wanted to talk about a lot. Obviously, is some of that stuff, and you're able to do that. I feel hearing the path that you've taken is there's a lot that you've seen, a lot of operators that you've worked under, a lot of people you've worked with, a lot of people that worked with you, to get all that, and then you've thought about, no doubt, you study sites and you learn them, and you think about ways that golf courses can work better and be managed better and be more efficient in different ways in different parts. And then here we are at Glenelg, and I say that in that way because on the back of my conversation with Monina, and on the back of a lot of everything that you guys have been doing, it's being talked about across a lot of platforms and talked about in different parts of our industry, and hopefully a lot of talk is going on in broader sense in golf about Glenelg. Mate, you really have taken the reins and pushed a guy. And I don't know anything about Glenelg prior to what I've heard from talking with you and seeing what's been going on. So, mate, you've really brought out a lot of things now that are so important. I think you guys are leading the way in this sustainability management of a golf course, and I think you need to be congratulated. And I will say straight up that it's you recently, both yourself and Monina, won the Claude Crockford award for Sustainability and Environment Award. That is the highest honour, in my opinion, the highest honour in the Australian Sports Staff Managers Association in greenkeeping that can be given. And congratulations to yourself for winning that, and also to Monina, as I've mentioned with her. So, mate, big accolades on a lot of work and a lot of hard work in driving something that's so precious now as we move forward in maintaining golf courses. Mate, let's start at the beginning. Let's start a little bit about what is Glenelg. Tell us what it's made of. Tell us where it sits. Tell us what the turf surfaces are.
Well, with Glenelg, I mean, we've always probably been, I don't know, to my feeling, and probably Glenelg members probably don't see that, but out of these 4, as we call in Adelaide, the Tier 1 clubs, us, Royal Adelaide, obviously, Grange and Kionga, and we've always probably been the little brother to those 3.
Yep.
The thing is too with Glenelg, okay, what makes us unique? We've got revetted bunkers that Neil Crafter, our architect in association, Bob Toohey. I mean, it's normally Crafter and Mogford, but Moggy doesn't have too much to do with Glenelg. It's basically Neil and our life member Bob Toohey.
Okay.
He's an ex professional golfer and really respected family. Him and his wife. Sue and the family, really respected family within the club. So the initial redevelopment was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and from there they started building revetted bunkers. They wanted a point of difference.
Yep.
So sod stack walls.
That's the style of St Andrews that people are familiar with.
Carnoustie and these links courses of Scotland. So they wanted a point of difference there. So it's something that we hang our hat on, but it's probably, and I'll probably get to, it's probably been a little bit of a noose hanging around our neck as well too. But in terms of our turf surfaces, fairways, tees, predominantly Santa Ana couch with a bit of common couch in there, bent grass, bent poa greens. Yep. Which we're addressing at the moment because we've got a lot of couching encroachment into the green putting surfaces. Pine tree, mostly our overstory is pine trees. A lot of riparian areas. We've got some really elevated areas. We've got one of the most elevated sites on the spots on the Adelaide Plains.
Yeah, right.
Right where the clubhouse is. So
wow.
That's our advantage, that we sit up on top of Pine Hill, as it's called. But then a lot of the golf course is at or just below sea level. So we have riparian areas. And in the past, we've had a lot of drainage issues. But my predecessor, Darryl Sellett, he did some great work in terms of a drainage scheme where we have a series of little submersible sump pumps that basically take the surface water out to the street. So it's a really, really good drainage network there. But yeah, so we're not a long course by today's standards. I think we're a little bit over 6,000 metres. We use every square inch of the ground. We're only on 48 hectares, and we are really tight. We've got a lot of close neighbours, which creates a lot of noise issues and noise constraints and when we can do work and whatever. But we're quite a busy golf course too. Like I think we're just under 50,000 comp rounds a year.
Yeah,
and
right.
And then you'd probably, pre-pandemic, we'd probably be at 60,000. But we'd probably be nudging close to, with green fees, visitors, etc. What we call the after hours, because come 5 o'clock and the pro shop shuts, just golfers drop out of trees. You'll come back late at night to do some spraying or spin some fertiliser out or do something. Then the place is packed. So look, we're probably up around 70,000 rounds of golf. So we're just super busy.
Yep.
Super busy.
Yep.
A little track, but
right.
It's got some great character. It's tough. It's tight. You've got to find the fairway, and it's probably only going to get a little bit tougher as we go through our course enhancement project.
And that's it. You're doing a lot of work with that course enhancer. What's that been going for now? The last year? Is that since you started?
Yeah, probably last sort of. No, look, probably we really kicked off last November. Well, you could probably say, look, we did a lot of preparatory work beforehand, the winter beforehand, the winter last year, and that's another thing itself. So, look, we started building another greens nursery, second greens nursery. We started sort of doing some sort of remodelling of our 19th to make it more fit for purpose, and we were doing all that, and I was hurrying around. Remember last year, hurrying around trying to get that organised before June because I was lined up to get my hip replaced, and I had my hip replaced in June, and I had 8 weeks off and whatever, and things were going on everywhere. So it's just great that I've just got a great team in terms of having Ryan there, Ryan Vanderveen, who we got from by chance through that COVID lockdown period. He was locked in South Australia when the borders were shut, and he started doing work for us. And next minute he's on staff. We've just turned around. We said, right, the committee have just gone. I said, oh, look, it'd be great to be able to put Ryan on as even 3 days of work. And the committee said, hey, no, we want to put him in this. You're doing great work. We could put him on full time. So
we can use him all the time.
We can use him all the time. So I suppose to backtrack a little bit, when I first started, they had a course enhancement plan sort of there from Neil Crafter and Bob, and it had just been sitting there doing nothing.
Right.
And when we went through the interview process, they said, well, we've got this course enhancement plan. And I said, oh, that's great. Has it gone to the membership? Have we gone to committee? Have we picked the bones out of it? Are we going to get some member feedback, or what do we want? Is it based on a course design concept? So all these questions weren't answered.
Right.
So we went back and we reviewed it, and it also probably goes back a bit further, the fact that the irrigation system is bugger. I mean, in places it's 45-year-old, and we were spending. I mean, I did some figures there with labour, parts, and whatever. We're spending over $100,000 a year keeping our irrigation system going,
just to keep it working.
Just to keep it working.
Oh,
we've got an old hydraulic satellite system.
Oh, don't!
Yeah.
No!
And that's the thing. I'm starting to. It's a bit of a worry. I mean, I don't. You're only as young as you feel, and I don't feel old. But saying that, I've got a hip replacement. So, I'm
glad you said that.
Old, yeah, I'm the only one old enough on the staff that really knows how to diagnose it, hydraulic irrigation, and I've had to pass that on to my irrigation tech about how this. I'd say we're working at I say to my staff, you're working at a living museum. Yeah, the hydraulic system is just woeful. So it all stemmed back. I said, you need a new irrigation system. And I said, oh, well, we'll put a new irrigation system in. Well, no, you need to have a course enhancement plan because you need to know what you're doing. Like I said previously, our revetted bunkers, although a great feature of the course, it was a noose around our necks. And there's so much maintenance in terms of having to, the revetting breaks away, it rots down, it decays over time. And we spend all winter rebuilding bunkers and trying to find sod to rebuild bunkers. And I said, this is not, keep coming up. This is not sustainable in the longer term.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing this.
It looks great, but there's a lot to it. It doesn't happen by itself.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And look, we're running out of areas to get turf, and we're sort of saying, well, do we just start harvesting off the fairway that we're working, then just replace turf with wash sod, because you need a certain thickness of sod and a certain amount of thatch in your sod to build these walls. And no, it was becoming impossible. I mean, they only last 4 to 5 years.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's all, because the climate doesn't suit. I've got a Scottish 2IC, and he has done a lot of revetting in his time in Scotland. He said, we just don't have the soil type that you need a bit of moisture all the time in these revettes. Otherwise, they just collapse.
But you're the driest state in the country, so it makes sense to have revetted bunkers.
That's right. So great idea at the time, revetted bunkers. Yeah, good, but it wasn't based on the decision back in the late 90s. It wasn't based on any research or whatever. It was just, we like the look of it.
A decision
and we'll
made.
Build it.
Yep.
Decision made.
Yep.
And then we've got to live with it. So,
yep.
So that was one thing. So look, it all sort of culminated with saying, right, irrigation, your greens, you want to improve your greens because there's a lot of cooch, a lot of power, a high percentage of power in certain greens. We had one green with some drainage issues. We've got all these issues, and we're sort of, when you look at turf quality compared to us, to Kionga, to Royal and Grange, we're sort of fallen behind here.
Okay.
And I said, well, what are we offering our members? And my point of opinion, I think, well, we're just going a million miles an hour, putting out spot fires.
Yep.
And we can't, as a club, we just can't keep doing that.
You can't function. You will eventually trip us over Ed.
Oh, that's right. And we were just, I mean, I say, and I'm big on analogies, I just say, look, I mean, talk about 100,000 a year on irrigation. There's all these other issues too, like time to revet, time to edge bunkers. We can't get a bunker rake in any of them. They're all got to be 93 bunkers. They're all got to be hand raked.
Yeah.
I mean, we're running with 10, 11 staff. I mean, I said, you may as well have a 44-gallon drum out the front of the lunchroom, and you just give me $50 bills, and I'll just throw them in there and just set the fires up, because that's all I'm doing.
Good analogy.
Oh, and they go, oh, yeah. Oh, well, look, how much do you want to keep throwing? I mean, we already battle with income at Glenelg anyhow with our membership structure, that we've got a certain amount of company members and whatnot, and we probably miss out on a certain amount of membership income and whatever. So we're really, really battling here. So dare I say it, and you don't want to say downplay it at all, but the pandemic and the way it was managed here in South Australia, with locking the borders down and no one could go anywhere and everyone was here.
Yep.
And we had a total of 5 lockdown days, I reckon,
yep,
for the whole pandemic. That was the best thing that ever happened to Glenelg.
Wow. We
had people play. We were just packed every day playing golf.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. We didn't lose any membership. And it's the same right throughout the golf industry within South Australia. We're still riding that sort of post-COVID sort of boom in golf, and going back, Ryan was here, and it all sort of the planets aligned, really. I mean, Ryan was here doing a bit of bunker work. We were sort of thinking, well, we've got to do something with irrigation. We were coming to a point where, geez, we could have a collaboration with Ryan and Neil and Bob, and
yep,
we could actually start doing this course enhancement project.
Yeah, right.
And the other thing too is we had a good committee,
yep,
and then we had a change in GMs. We'd had my first 18 months, I had 3 GMs.
3
GMs in the first 18 months. So I was trying to get this course enhancement up and going and trying to convince them. Meanwhile, I've got a revolving door of general managers coming in and out.
Wow. And
then Rob Vinskovic come over from Grange. He was the assistant manager over there. He started, and then he sat down with myself and he said, how are we going to get this done? He said, we're going to make it happen. And lo and behold, we employed Ryan, and away we go. So
and that's
we're
it.
Into it. And we're into it.
The gun's off and we're away.
Guns off and away. I mean, we started with 18. I mean, people look at us and go, why the hell did you start with 18? It's your longest hole, par 5. But it was all based on an irrigation trial that we had on the practice fairway, which is adjacent.
Yep.
We put it out to Toro Irrigation and Rainbird threw everything up the kitchen sink at us. We trialled it. We were quite happy with it. We did our own independent auditing on the design, and the maintenance and whatnot. And Rainbird got the nod, so we started putting the Rainbird IC system in. So we had to basically come out from the practice fairway and go down 18. And
sure.
it was around COVID time, so we were having trouble getting supply and whatever, and we didn't really understand well. And it was about the time too they opened up the borders.
Okay.
It was about I think it was the day-night test. I think there was pressure from the government to open the border up, and then bang, we had COVID everywhere. Every second day I'm getting a phone call from one of the young fellas. Yeah, went out Saturday night, and guess what? I got COVID. Right, okay. So we were battling that summer because there's some mornings there we'd bumped up our staff to 14. We're up at 17 now.
Wow.
But I'll be looking around the lunchroom and I'd had 4 people there, and I go, oh God,
jeez,
we've got 1,000 square metres of turf to lay there, and I've got 4 guys. So there was a bit of early doors. It was a little bit challenging, but then we smashed it. The next hole we smashed that out, and I think we had that open in 8 weeks, par 4 in 8 weeks. So as we go, people get more skilled with training guys up, spreading the load a bit more with irrigation installation, the construction of the bunkers and machinery operation and that sort of thing. And staff numbers are up there now, so we can knock it out.
Unreal. But you go back to the beginning of all of that, and it's like a sort of a point where a lot of questions were being asked from you, from the club, and it really boiled down to, we need a plan, like to execute a plan, because there was a couple of objectives that you wanted to get out of it, and obviously the questions began with irrigation early on, and then now you're at a point where you're ticking through that plan. That's your Bible, and the club know what they're going to get out of it. Everyone knows what they're working towards, and you're off and racing. And what a great way to do it, and to see it unfold from afar. I mean, you guys are kicking goals, and you're doing it very well and very quickly.
Yeah. The pressure's on it. I mean, they want it all knocked off in 4.5 years.
Wow!
So full course reconstruction, and we've got some pretty tight time frames.
That's unreal.
But I mean, the club centenary is in 2027. So I think in the back of the mind, we're pretty keen to sort of have it all knocked over by then.
That's sensational. That will be spectacular if those goals can be achieved, mate. Because you are, as a team, as a whole, as a club, you are working through something special. I don't know, has Glenelg had something like this in the recent past of its history, with a full course rebuild?
Oh, look, they did I think late 90s, early 2000s. They did, I suppose, the first round of reconstruction work. Right, okay. I mean, they had a history beforehand, and this was a testament to Daryl Cahill before even, and Daryl Seller, the previous 2 supers. The course the club just had power greens at the time. It had Kikuyu fairways.
Oh, wow.
They're the big ticks that come out. The revetted bunkers, we've got to live with them now. But in terms of eradicating, we still have a percentage of kike out there that we can manage. But the place was kike.
Wow,
power greens, poor draining, and that sort of thing. So they addressed that. But I think that's why we call it a course enhancement project rather than a course redevelopment, because we're just looking at, how can we tweak this? All right, we're tweaking the bunkers in terms of rationalising the numbers and the areas to make it a more sustainable number so we can manage. We're looking at drainage. We're looking at grass types. We're looking at addressing the issues that we have with the greens and primarily the irrigation system, and actually addressing that in a thorough way rather than just tweaking around the edges. Actually doing a full irrigation redo.
Mate, there's a lot of positives coming ahead for Glenelg, and there's a lot of work going through in the meantime, and it's great to see. And I think it's a wonderful path that Glenelg are going down with you at leading that to happen, to make it, to build it, and bring it up to spec for the club to open when that day comes that it's all finished. It's really exciting. I'm curious. You talked about, and I want to jump into this one now only because we've been talking about irrigation, and you've got a unique irrigation water supply there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing about this a while ago, and I don't understand it. So, mate, can you give us a bit of a brief on what it is and how it works?
Yeah, so I think around about 13 odd years ago, I think we're in the middle of the millennium drought, and Adelaide, and most of the, I suppose, southeastern Australia were going through that drought, and the government of the day were looking at initiatives to, I suppose, help public space areas and see whether, I suppose, divert sort of the use of potable water. So what we've done, and I suppose we're not unique in this area. I mean, we have this system, Royal Adelaide and Grange, but it's called a ASR scheme, so Aquifer Recovery and Storage System.
Right.
So basically what it is, in layman's terms, we pump water from a creek that runs adjacent to the airport, Brownhill Creek. So we pump that water into our wetlands. That wetlands treat the water. It takes about 2 days, I think, off the top of my head, 2 days to work its way through that wetland system.
Okay.
So working its way through the wetland plants to filter out the quality of the water.
And they strip nutrients and all that sort of stuff out of the water,
and improve the turbidity of water and that sort of thing, take out the fines and whatnot. So it gets to the end of the wetlands, and then we have some sump pumps there, and those sump pumps transfer that water to, now it used to be 3 bores, but now we've got 2 bores. One of those bores collapsed, but basically we inject that water into the aquifer.
Underground.
We inject that underground. So, and then that creates a bubble of water within that aquifer. Okay, so
it's a natural storage facility, effectively.
It's a natural storage facility. It only works in certain sort of, I suppose, geological formations and aquifers. But in Adelaide, we do have a lot of these aquifers where it can take the injection of this water. So it's stored there. So I just finished writing my monthly report for the committee for next week's meeting, but I think we're up at around 100 and just under 150 megalitres so far this winter that we've injected.
What? 150 meg underground?
150 meg underground. And so that we would use at the moment with our still got the fairly inefficient system out there in terms of stuff that we haven't replaced. I mean, we use 200 meg a year.
Yep.
So basically, so we've got 150 meg that we've pumped down. So, and then when we turn that system into, so there's 2 modes that we have. The system is injection mode, it's pumping water down. And then when the levels of our irrigation tanks get to a certain point, it'll flip itself around into extraction mode.
Okay.
And those valves, a series of valves, will swap over from recharge to production.
Yep.
And then those balls will start, and they'll start topping up our irrigation tanks.
Wow. So
and then
there's,
of course, they go to irrigate.
That's amazing, because often we'll hear and talk about, and working on golf courses, you can literally see the water evaporating from dams. So in open storage, with a larger reservoir, ideally you'd have it deeper rather than more broad, but sometimes you can't do that depending on, again, like the geology and what's under the ground when you're digging. But you've removed, and you don't need to build anything to remove the evaporation losses. You don't need to build more tanks. You've got some tanks. You don't need to build 150 megs worth of tank holding capacity, and you're not. So it's understanding the geology to use what Mother Nature and the ground has already.
Yep. What a
smart system that is.
Oh, certainly. It beats, I remember down Lady Bay and having 2 dams down, and it beats sort of looking at it each night and going, oh, geez, how much do I put out tonight? Because and you start doing these water budgets, and right, I'm going to turn fairways off for the next month because I think I'm going to run out of water. No, and the thing is, it's going into the aquifer. So even if we have those low yielding years, so I mean, we've had some dry years where we've put less than 100 meg into the aquifer.
Yep.
We've still got that native water there.
Yeah,
in that
sure.
Aquifer.
Yeah,
but that native water, the benefit of that injecting the water in is that it actually improves the water quality that you're pulling out. So the native water will have higher bicarbonates, higher sodium contents and whatnot. And look, if you have a lean year on injection, by the end of, and you're having a long summer, you will see some effect of some fairly brackish water coming through. And that's where we've got to maintain it through or change up what we do with our, I suppose, cultural programs. It might be more aeration, more gypsum applications, et cetera, but generally, our water quality is fairly good due to the fact that we can inject a percentage of fresh water into that aquifer to shandy it, essentially.
Yeah. Wow, that's unreal. I love to hear. I was really wanting for you to explain that to everyone listening, and so I could learn a little bit more about it as well, selfishly, because I find that really, really interesting, fascinating how it all works. I mean, storing in naturally underground and removing any issues with evaporation and worrying about, like you said, that you're treating the water as well on its way in naturally through this tertiary treatment of water through plant life and through those wetland systems. I mean, these are all fantastic stuff, and this is on top of that I'm looking at and thinking about and talking about the environmental and the sustainability way that you guys are maintaining that golf course there. So I assume that's one part of it. And I mentioned before you've won the Claude Crockford with Monina. So can you tell us a little bit about let's start with this one. I've got a question for you, right? I want to know how the conversation felt or went with the club when you got to a point of saying, listen, guys, I really would like to see us employ a biodiversity manager on our golf course because we want to manage all the other parts, not the grass parts, but differently. We want to look at this we want our space to become more environmentally conscious and become I call it a sanctuary for wildlife, for plant life outside the turf surfaces and really create a place that's in harmony with what was here before it was a golf course. I mean, how did that go down to want to employ Monina? What was that discussion like? Was it weird for them?
No, I wouldn't say weird. I mean, I suppose that looking back on and reflecting on it, it probably fits into when I first stepped in and sort of got my feet under the desk and thought, well, what do we need to do here? And I've almost had a sort of, my view on managing a facility like Glenelg is that it's about resource allocation.
Yep.
I mean, you can have 10 greenkeepers specialising in turf management, but I'm a big believer that outside of the turf is a fairly specialised role.
Okay.
I mean, some turfies, as we affectionately know, they've got a real interest and a real passion in what's on outside of what's going on in turf. But majority have a passing interest, and some just don't give two hoots. I wanted to address all areas of our operation, and that was one area I felt that we need to like we're 20 hectares of turf, and we're around about 28 hectares of outside play. We need to actually spread our resources more evenly across what we're trying to do.
Sure.
And the appointment of Monina was the first step, I suppose, of making that happen in terms of that space. So, look, in terms of remembering and reflecting back on the conversation, there wasn't much because, as I know, it was going through the revolving door of general managers.
Yeah, right.
And I reached out to Monina and I said, well, I want to make a spot for you. Let's call it biodiversity manager. And you still have that. And I know Monina. I've known Monina from my days back at Adelaide Shores. I sort of looked from afar from some of her work that she'd done for Holdfast City Council, and I had to come in and do some stuff around some landscaping work around the clubhouse and the clubhouse and I suppose driving range precinct at Adelaide Shores. And I know how passionate she is, and I know how knowledgeable she is with plan identification, and also the contacts that she has within the industry. So that was the key for us to get someone like that on our staff. So it was baby steps at first, because I felt that, look, I wasn't going to get someone that was going to grab a whippersnipper or grab a knapsack and go out and physically do it. But the foundation there was to get someone there with the knowledge and the skill set that was going to, I suppose, envisage what I had planned down the track. So the conversation wasn't that hard, really, with the club at the time.
Okay.
And then it's really snowballed from there, because I take a more pragmatic view about what we do, and I'm not downplaying the significance of the ward and the legacy of the name Claude Crockford and that sort of thing. If anyone's a student of golf and greenkeeping, that we know the legacy that is the ex head greenkeeper stroke superintendent of Royal Melbourne. However, I take it as a more of a pragmatic view to say, well, sustainability is an offshoot of good, prudent management of a golf course and as a land manager. I'm
glad you said it that way.
Because if we get the balance right at Glenelg, we're just going to be. It's a holistic. You can say, well, what's the benefit of being sustainable? Well, it's being a good corporate citizen. People look through our fence and see sprinklers going and this, that, and the other, and they don't know what's going on. But if we've got a good social media presence, which we've really put a focus on, with Monina and Graham, my 2IC, managing that. Getting it out there, what we're doing. So good social media, people can see what we're doing. They said they're doing the right thing. And then all these other initiatives that we're doing, we're putting out there, from having beehives on the golf course to setting up kitchen gardens, to trying to go paperless with our QR code. So with our QR codes, we have a QR code on for our fuel logs. The guys will fill up. They'll scan the ULP, go to the machine, record how much they use. I mean, we have QR codes on each one of the machinery that QR codes goes to a Google form. They tick what they've checked and then they sign off. We know that that's been done. So we're not having this paper trail. It's all these little things that adding up. Yes, sustainability, but it makes us a more efficient operation as well, and it gets the message out there. That's probably where I sit with it. I'm not strapping myself to trees, and I'm not a tree hugger, and I'm not an environmentalist, and I'm walking around with dreadlocks and whatever. I see it as the right thing to do for the golf club and for the industry as a whole. Because we as an industry we really suck at getting a message out there, I think.
We do. I'll happily say it. We're shit at it. We were when I was a superintendent, and I can say that because I don't work at a golf club and I'm not, involved in the industry now. But I was a superintendent for 10 years, and I was in an environment we had as part of our golf course an environmentally sensitive area with 3 local hanging swamps that are only found in the Blue Mountains. They were part of our land, and we are shit. We were doing a lot of work at Katoomba. We were eradicating weeds that were there for 20-something years because the council wouldn't spend a cent. But the club had to try and that's what we were doing ourselves on the course, much like what you've just explained that you're doing in the team, and you've got Monina and you've got your assistant doing the social media stuff and getting messaging out there. The clubs sometimes don't have the resources, and we're at a smaller club, to do that stuff. The industry as a whole isn't very good. I said it before, they're shit at doing it and getting it out to the broader golf community and then out into society, which is where it really, really needs to be. So that people can understand. So I will say that it's crap. I will say that we're not good enough as an industry, and we're still being viewed through a 1960s lens of using bad chemicals and doing things in a terrible way where we just go and dump it on the ground and hope for the best. And
yeah, you're right. But it gets back, like I said, it's just prudent management. That's the thing. But getting back to it's hard at times with golf clubs as well, because there's a certain demographic there. You've got a lot of retirees and whatnot that come from a different generation. And well, what are you planting those weeds for? And what are you doing this? They just much rather see wall-to-wall grass and I hit the ball, I find the ball. No. We I mean, one of the things, Mackenzie's 13 principles of golf course design, and one of them is that the golf course should not impose itself on the landscape. It should blend in with the landscape. And that is exactly what we're trying to do. We are trying to blend in with their landscape and what was here before, close enough before European settlement.
Yep. As best as you can do and keep moving forward to it.
And do it in a practical way. We can't let everything just go back. We've got to look at how this affects golf and how this affects how certain plantings and what we do in certain areas and that sort of thing. We don't want to be too penal. We don't want to be planting plants that swallow balls and slow down play and whatever. But it's a strategic way about how we go about it with the palette of plants that we put out there and our planting designs, and it all works into what we're doing with our course enhancement project. Actually, when people walk into drive, and that's the beauty of Glenelg, that the clubhouse is sitting right in the middle of the golf course, and the car park's right in the middle of the golf course. And as people drive in and meander their way up the drive they get a sense of what they're going to be playing, what the experience is going to be like, and that's what we try and achieve at Glenelg with what we do with their planting.
Pretty amazing stuff coming from, I take away from what you said as and I don't mean to diminish it by saying it's a simple phrase or a simple line, which is, like you said, practicality. You're pragmatic about how you go about it, and these are the end results. I'm going to step back and ask you, I suppose, or even make a statement in a sense, is that for you, and you can only speak for yourself, so from where you're sitting, is it difficult? Is that a difficult question in itself? Has it been difficult to do that to Glenelg, to manage the course in that way, and in doing so, you've kicked these goals, and like you said, sustainability comes, efficiency through trying to find efficiencies and be better. All these positives are kicking off left, right, and centre. So was it difficult to go down that path in a sense?
I think yes, yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I touched on it. It's difficult you've got a certain demographic that you've got to try and win over to.
Okay.
That they feel that how's this going to benefit them? I mean, a lot of these older members and that sort of thing, they've probably only got 10 years of golf left in it, and they say, well, how's this benefiting me? What's this? This is you doing this. How's it benefiting me? And that's a pretty selfish sort of. In some, I'm only speaking a minority of our membership, but there's that thing. Well, you've got to try and win them over. But I've had this philosophy that we've got to manage the golf course for the member. For the sad day in 20 years' time, not the sad day next week. It's the sad day in the next 20 years' time. You've got to manage it in the future. And a lot of people, we're trying to attract, and it's holistic too. Like you're trying to attract new members. The younger generations now, what concerns it? Climate change, the environment, mental health, and that sort of thing. But if we can be seen to be doing the right thing, that only helps the golf course. In getting back to, is it difficult? Yes, because it's managing expectations. You say you're going to do it and they expect it to be done tomorrow. When you're doing these native areas, it takes time for it to mature, and there's some early pain in terms of establishment, weed control and that sort of thing until you get it up and going. But once you get these areas up and established, they're self-sufficient and they run themselves. And if you've got good cultural programs in place with well-timed herbicide and pre-emergent applications, people that have the knowledge of plant identification, managing it as the facility, as an amenity, so not having the first thing that you'll lose the support of your membership if they start losing golf balls in amongst native plants and whatnot.
Hey, yeah.
So
sure.
you've got to manage that as well. So I think we are, and using that sort of the wave of, yes, the recognition that we're getting, I think the wheel's slowly turning, and we've got more and more acceptance of what we're doing, that it is the right thing to do for Glenelg Golf Club.
It's a big. I'm on the outside, far away. I look at it and I think it's a fantastic, noble path. It's an important path that I look at and see what. And you mentioned the 13 rules that Mackenzie sort of wrote down in terms of design, but that one about blending in and not being, not being obvious. It wasn't something. Golf courses, when they're built, the idea is to make them as close to nature as possible. Is what you want to do. You don't want to change the whole landscape and turn it on its head. You've got to blend in, and that's from so many years ago. I think the path that's been going down, and I'm sure there are other clubs that are trying to do these things as well, but we're talking about what you guys are doing, and I think it's so much also for the greater good. It in a sense, because you are, and let me get this right, are you a private golf club?
Yeah, members
golf club. So there is that scenario. You're very much in the firing line of the thought process that they do their own thing on the other side of the fence. They're doing whatever they want in there, and we don't even know. But you're doing the social media presence. You're showing people what's inside the fence without them, coming in and just walking through because it's private land. I think that's so important, but it's almost doing something, like you said, for the greater good. There's legacy here for Glenelg
that's right.
on the whole in Adelaide. I mean, there are things bigger than just my life, your life, the members' lives. This is about fitting in a broader sense. I see that from the outside. Is that something that some of the members are starting to are the members buying in now? Are they there?
You'd hope so. I mean, you'd hope so, because what you want is you want people to be down the street and, where do you play golf? And be proud to say, I'm a member of Glenelg Golf Club, and people go, okay, they're doing some great things.
Yeah,
that's what you want. You want your members to be proud of what you're doing. I think with the recognition that we are getting, I think we're getting that. And like I say, it's like a little tsunami building sort of thing. Like the momentum's there, and it keeps snowballing. That the more and more, like I say, the more and more recognition we get, you hope that it's getting back to the members and go, hang on, this place is actually doing something really good, and this is a place I'm proud to be a member at.
Yep. And hopefully the more that there'll be other people that are neighbours that go, look what they're doing. We live next door to what Glenelg are up to. We're so happy that they're doing that on the other side of the fence.
Yes, that's right.
I think all of that comes in to be a talking point, like I said, not just in golf, but also I find it's always very hard to talk outside your boundaries, and in golf it's hard to talk about it inside society in general because it's not always viewed in the right way. So hopefully those things are starting to be talked about and you're getting more recognition generally. Did I see something at Club South Australia? Awards left, right and centre for you guys in Glenelg. Is that right? Without blowing smoke up your ass? But I will.
Thanks, Steve. I mean, that was unexpected. I mean, so we took over a few awards on Saturday night, just gone. So, Monina was recognised as Employee of the Year, and we took home the Environmental Sustainability Award and Club of the Year, and I was also recognised as well. So,
so just another few gongs on top of what, like you said, these are all coming along the way. You're not doing it to get them. So there's that's to me on the outside, that's showing how much of an impact and how much you're leading the way doing these things. Pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't get up in the morning and think, what award am I going to win today? You like I said, it gets back to me, and It's, in terms of my acknowledgement, I mean, I'd just love to thank the club and Rob Inskovic, GM, and for nominating me. And like I said on Saturday night, I mean, I'm just a humble bloke that cuts grass, but it's your team.
Yeah,
that's the thing, and that was the big. I mean, the whole process of being interviewed for the award or whatever, and I just kept sort of emphasising that I'm only as good as the people that have got behind me. And obviously Monina, but definitely Ryan Vanderveen. I mean, I wouldn't be able to. I mean, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing without Ryan. I mean, he's unbelievable with his knowledge and the collaborative approach that he's working with Neil. My 2IC, Graham Davidson, 3IC, and Peter Bell, GD, my mechanic, and I could go through them all.
Through everyone in the team.
Everyone in the team.
And it's funny.
My memory's not that good, and I'll probably forget.
But I've heard you talk about team earlier in the conversation through your career. So clearly that says a lot as well in the team that you have. What you guys as a group, guys and girls, I say guys encompassing everyone, is team's important because you can't get the job done without the team. Like you said, you're only as good as the team you have, and I think that speaks volumes for Glenelg on the whole. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that it's not. This is the club. This is the whole lot. This is the members. This is everyone involved that's rowing in the same direction. And I use that phrase a hell of a lot because that's so important to not have too many people butting heads, to understand and appreciate. And now you're walking the path after going through all that, and it's being recognised. And that's the short version. We can look at who's getting it, yourself and Monina and the club's getting this and that. But the short version is that what's being done is being recognised by many people further afield. And that really speaks volumes.
Definitely, because like I said, I mean, I suppose you look back on your career and that sort of thing, and just coming out of Yarrawonga, and I haven't had a boss other than Rowan at Grange. I haven't had anyone above me in terms of a superintendent above me since I started. So you hear about a lot of people, and especially through your podcast, and you ask guys, who's your biggest influence in this, and they'll quote superintendents that they've worked under. I haven't had that. A lot of my influence has probably gone from probably my first boss in terms of my father and seeing how he manages his land on the land. At the moment, sort of battling floodwaters and that sort of thing in northern Victoria, but that's the thing. And then through my association with sport and doing a lot of junior football coaching and that sort of thing, and a lot of the training that I've had with that. And actually, it's no different when you're leading 17 people. You outline their roles. This is what your roles are. I'm just there for support. You go and do what you got to do. Come and see me if you have a problem, and let them go and have the autonomy to make the decisions. And that's why, with the environmental space, with what Monina does, she does such a great job. Ryan just he's doing an amazing job, and all my staff. So, and same with the committee. The committee, we're going through strategic planning. We all know, we're all, like you're saying, we're all rowing in the same direction. Yeah, like a good family, we have it out every now and then. We have our disagreements and whatever, but we move on. Yep. And it's a great place to be at the moment at Glenelg because we've just seen such a lot of great things happening both with our turf surfaces, our environmental stewardship, and where we're heading with that, and as a club as a whole. So a waiting list now for the first time in, 20 plus years, we've got over 100 people on a waiting list. I mean, it's all going really well for the Bay.
It's so good to hear, mate. It's really great to hear the insight about what is becoming of Glenelg and how you're getting there, how the club is getting there and what you're going through to do that. And like I said, we see the accolades, we hear about this. Yep, there's an award over there. There's another award over there. There's one last week. We hear that, but to hear you articulate the path and what's involved, mate, I cannot begin to tell you how appreciative I am of you opening up for us. And people listening to hear that. And I think I think what's happening at Glenelg, I'm going to say it over and over again, I think it's fantastic. And you leading the team and having all those people around you, as you've mentioned, is wonderful to hear. You've got such a great team of people that you all enjoy working together and achieving great things. It's fantastic to hear, mate. So well done. I can say well done. It means probably nothing, but I'm just a rank outsider. But mate, I'm going to ask a question, and I'll try and make it. It's only a brief one. I'm just curious. I like to talk about things outside our space a little bit and getting the message out there. One thing that I'm wondering is, it's great for the club, the members and people involved to see and witness, and you share stuff on socials as well. But to get a real feel of what you guys have been up to in the parts and the locations of the areas outside turf, fitting in with the environment and really becoming as one in part, is there something potentially there of maybe is there possibility for things in the future where school kids might be able to come and see and experience physically, in smaller groups and things, and educating kids about the future of what you guys are up to, and this is what golf looks like moving forard potentially? Is that something? I don't mean to throw the cat amongst the pigeons, but
no. Definitely. It was only, might have been last week, I reckon. I said to Monina, you know what I'm thinking about doing? And she goes, what? I said, we've got a primary school just around the corner, St. Leonard's Primary. I said, it'd be good to talk to them about their STEM classes, so their science classes and whatnot, and see whether we can form up some sort of relationship there. I mean, we've got so much to offer in terms of, all right, we touched on our ASR. We touched on how wetlands and how they work and how they strip the water of nutrients and that sort of thing, and where underground water comes from and whatnot. I mean, there's so many things that we could be doing in terms of engaging with schools. And I mean, we've got our bees, we've got the kitchen garden that we're establishing and that sort of thing. There's so many opportunities there. I mean, I just come up with these ideas. Monina comes up with these ideas, and we just shoot in the breeze and that sort of thing. But yeah, that was one that we sort of spoke about last week. STEM is a new, and I've got to look into it a bit more, but it's basically the science stream of in primary school and whatnot. And it's whether we can it'd be great to sort of form a partnership with the local school and go that way.
Yeah. Mate, I'm just thinking out loud, like you said, shoot the breeze. It's good to hear that you are thinking about that as a short version. I didn't know, because I could go back to it's private golf club, and we know what we hear and see about access and that sort of thing. But I think that I just look at it.
Yeah, sorry, Sue, but that we say private golf club, but where do we get as private golf? I mean, this post-COVID golf boom ain't going to last forever.
No.
So we've got to be, I think we as clubs, we've got to be on the front foot, and especially clubs, I suppose, at Glenelg's level. And I don't say that in a derogative term and whatnot, but still we're probably that mid-range up club. We're no Royal Adelaide, or we're not a Kionga. But we've got to attract memberships from somewhere. So whether it's from junior golf and whatnot. Now, so if we had a young primary school kid that was doing a STEM course, and he was out at, he or she was at Glenelg, and looked around and go, hang on, I'm doing my science class, a part of my science class here at the golf course. I look at all these people playing golf. I might, here's a flyer for the junior golf program. I might get mum and dad to pay me for some lessons, and I might take up golf.
Yeah.
It's all little things like that, and it's how we can open our doors to what golf clubs and golf courses can do for the community.
Mate, that is just so well said. You've made me smile to hear you talk about like that, and that level of engagement that's being talked about and thought about to continue the future of Glenelg, because like you said, you've got to be thinking about 20 years down the track. You know, the Saturday
definitely.
in 20 years' time, not the Saturday on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And the trouble is, most members are just worried about what's happening next Saturday.
That they are. Look, and I, you know what, Tim, we could talk for another couple of hours,
yeah, that's right.
indeed. But I'm gonna leave us on that positive. I had a few other questions, and maybe it's for another time, but I'm going to leave us on that because you've given us so much insight to your career, mate, and what a path you've been down, and a lot of experience, and it equals Glenelg is the way I'm going to put it, because that's where you are today, mate. And something that's, you know, I talk about the Claude Crockford, what an accolade, a culmination of your career to get to that point so far, because there's still more to come. And mate, congratulations on everything that you've achieved in your career to this point, everything that you've been part of in creating at Glenelg. It sounds like an incredible place to be working, an incredible team to be part of. Mate, I sit here and think how I hope you feel so proud of what you're delivering to Australian golf, because I see that as something that's very important, and I think you've been a key part to doing that. And it's only a step for Glenelg and yourself along this way, mate. So congratulations and well done. And mate, I really appreciate you giving all this time to me and to the audience, people listening, and to give that insight into your own personal career path and also the future of Glenelg and what it holds, and something that you're doing so incredibly well down there, mate. So congratulations, and thank you very, very much for being part of the podcast.
No worries at all, Steve. It's been a pleasure. And like I said, well, at the start, I mean, what you're doing with your podcast, it's great. It's getting stories out there. It's promoting our industry, and you're doing a great thing. And you'll have to call into Glenelg next time you're in Adelaide. Give Royal Adelaide a miss. All right? Do yourself a favour.
Mate, you are one I haven't seen, and I will be there first time when I'm in Adelaide next. Don't you worry, mate. Thank you very much. And, mate, appreciate it, Tim. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Superintendent Tim Warren from Glenelg Golf Club in South Australia, in Adelaide. What a great conversation! What a greenkeeping career! What a story! Look, we couldn't stop chatting. That it was just so much to talk about. A very extensive career that Tim has, in lots of golf experience and all over the place. And you could hear where golf has taken him, where life's taken him. And thanks to Tim for opening up about all that. There's a lot of personal stuff in there, and I say that with every conversation. I thank them. I thank Tim, and I thank everyone for opening up about all the details of their life and their career journey. And they're often intertwined, talking about personal life as well along the way. So thank you to Tim for doing that. And also great insight into Glenelg. There's a lot of other things we probably could have chatted for another good hour plus about what's going on at Glenelg and what they're up to. I tried to get in as much as I could and make it. Maybe I've got to get Tim back on board, maybe in time to talk a little bit more about what they're continuing to get on with. So look, appreciate the insight, Tim, and I hope you guys got to take away something out of that. I think there's plenty there to take away. I hope you found it most interesting and insightful as well along the way. And if you ever get the opportunity to get down there and see Glenelg in Adelaide, I'm sure you will really take in what's happening out there on the golf course and what the club is also being part of overall on the whole, and what they're doing in the industry and what they're doing in Adelaide. It's quite special. So fantastic, and thanks again to Tim for doing so. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you make sure that you check out Colin Campbell Chemicals, their sponsor of Keeper of the Greens podcast, and get to their website at campbellchemicals.com.au to see what they have that's available to help you protect your turf. Get in touch with Nadeem, and if you haven't done so already, he will be able to guide you in the right direction. They have a plethora of things at their disposal that they can help you with your turf services, so make sure you check them out. And they've been wonderful sponsors of the Keeper of the Green segment, and we're so glad to be working together and have them on board so that I can continue to bring this segment to you. So fantastic stuff. Thanks again to Nadeem and Colin Campbell Chemicals for being part of the Keeper of the Greens podcast. It's great to be working with them along the way and bringing out these wonderful stories. As I always say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, taking the time out. Please like, share, subscribe. Appreciate appreciate you taking the time to write a review, write a star review, write a written review is the best way to help share this around and pass it out to anyone you think might really enjoy this, get a little bit of info out of it, something that they may not have heard before. We get some great insights into the golf courses around Australia that you can take away. So, please share it around. I really do appreciate your help in that one. And it's so wonderful to hear how many people are listening to the podcast. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Just hit a new milestone, 20,000 downloads. So I'm so humbled by everyone taking the time to listen. So thank you very, very much along the way. It's been an incredible journey. It continues to be a wonderful journey, and I've got a lot more coming. So stay tuned, hit that subscribe button. Please share it around. As I always say, you hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you very soon.